Hey, Kliff, obviously you guys had the late season slide this year, following a one last year. If you go back in your career, it's kind of been a trend since you started Texas Tech. Is there kind of an overarching reason why you think your teams have struggled in the second half of the seasons throughout?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't done the research on that exactly, back to the Texas Tech years. But, the last couple, for the reasons we haven't been as sharp, and that's something I got to continue to evaluate and figure out what we need to do, whether it's practice structure or different things of that nature, because we got to be better. This league is about closing strong and building momentum into the playoffs, and unfortunately, we didn't do that.
Always big on body language at press conferences. I don't know what was going on with his shirt there. It seemed like he was kind of nervous and shaking below the surface. He should be. He should be. 9 years as a head coach, from Texas Tech for 6 years to Arizona for 3 years. Good to great starts every single season. Collapses every single season. And it sounds like, this is just odd the way it happened yesterday. Kyle Odegaard, who used to work for the team's official website, so presumably knows some people there, reported there was a meeting between Kliff Kingsbury, GM Steve Keim, owner Michael Bidwell, and it got tense. It got ugly. The S-T hit the fan, according to Odegaard. Then almost immediately, Ian Rappaport of the NFL, which is partially owned and operated by the Arizona Cardinals, reported that no such meeting has happened. Kent Summers of the Arizona Republic chimed in saying, I've also heard no meeting has happened, but I've also heard that Michael Bidwell is very, very upset with the collapse. They were 10-2. They were the best team in football. Then they went 1-5 down the stretch and made a one-game exit from the playoffs, losing to a division rival they'd beaten in the regular season. Peter, as I said earlier this week, if Kliff Kingsbury is bringing bananas to the office this week, they better not be green.
Look, I think one of the things that would be particularly bothersome to the owner of a franchise is to see a guy who on Thanksgiving Day, or let's say November 10th, was a legitimate MVP candidate in Kyler Murray. And probably at midseason this year, a lot of people had him number one in the MVP stakes. But down the stretch of this season, he regressed badly. And Mike, I am finding it very difficult to in any way legitimize what we saw out of Kyler Murray at the end of this game. And I understand Kliff Kingsbury is the lightning rod now, and he's had these bad finishes. But Kyler Murray was absolutely awful in this game. And you really have to wonder when you see what Kyler Murray did. And this play in particular is just, it's beyond any sort of reason that somebody in a professional football game would make a play like that, would just throw it away like that. So look, all I'm saying is that I think the bigger problem on this team, and there are a lot of problems on this team, but I think the bigger problem on this team is what in the world happened to Kyler Murray down the stretch, and what is Kliff Kingsbury's method for making sure that never happens again, and to get his game to rise instead of precipitously fall off a cliff.
Well, remember, week eight, they had the Thursday night game. Yes, they had the Thursday night game against the Packers where Kyler Murray suffered the ankle injury on the next to last play of the game, and he missed several games after that. And look, whether it was Dak Prescott and his calf, Russell Wilson and his finger, Kyler Murray and his ankle, I think it takes time to get back to 100%. I'd like to think by the time the playoffs roll around, though, for a midseason injury, a guy's going to be closer to 100% than not. To only run him 2 times for the entire game, by design or just by the way things unfolded, the fact that his stat line was 2 rushing attempts for 6 yards, when he's the most dangerous quarterback in the league on his feet running the ball, how do you expect to win the game that way? Look at what Josh Allen did first drive against the Patriots, a 26-yard run that gets them on their heels and keeps them on their heels about what he could do running the ball the rest of the game. You can't just surrender. You just can't forfeit that aspect of a quarterback's game if you have it. You use it to make it easier to throw the ball. If you make yourself one-dimensional, you're never going to be as successful as you need to be. And Peter, Sims and I were talking about this earlier in the week. There is a chance he is just too small. I mean, I'm taller than Kyler Murray. Not by much, but I'm taller than him. And when I see guys come walking out of the locker room in their full uniforms, really? Good luck trying to figure out what you're going to do with those guys chasing you around. They're gigantic. And it's unfortunate because I want Kyler Murray to be as great as his skills would suggest he would be, but something's wrong here, and it's either Murray or it's coaching or it's a little bit of both. But if I'm Michael Bidwell, the owner of the Cardinals, I'm not changing my quarterbacks after only 3 years. I'll change my coaches and see if there's somebody else who can get more out of Kyler Murray.
I guess there'd be 2 points I would have to what you said. And one is, the size of the people in front of him had absolutely zero to do with Kyler Murray losing all sense of any poise that a professional athlete should have, and just basically throwing a ball up in the air indiscriminately, foolishly. It defies description why he did what he did on that the shortest pick six in playoff history. And secondly, if I had told you before this weekend that 2 quarterbacks, here was going to be their rushing line, Josh Allen and Kyler Murray, one was going to be 2 rushes for 6 yards, and one was going to be 6 rushes for 66 yards. Which would you have assigned to either player? I don't know about you, but I probably would have given Kyler Murray the 66 yards.
And I still would have been surprised because the Bills like to let Josh Allen run it in the postseason when the consequences of an injury are going to be far less extensive than they would be in week 2. But regardless, if you've got those skills, you've got to use them. You've got to use them. And there's got to be a story behind the story there. And as we move forward, look, I don't know what's going to happen with Kliff Kingsbury. It's Michael Bidwell's call. Again, it's the oligarch's privilege. You decide what you want to do with your team, even though hundreds of thousands of people who are fans of that team are hoping you do the right thing. With Murray, who's had 3 years in the NFL, and Peter, I remember when Murray was in the draft and coming into the NFL, you wrote something in your column about how few games he had lost in his high school and college career. How is he going to deal with the reality that at the NFL level you're going to lose a hell of a lot more games than that? And I say that because he is the extremely rare NFL player who could go play another sport at a high level. And he was a top 10 pick of the Oakland A's. He still shows up from time to time in an Oakland A's hat. He's 24 years old. At what point do you entertain the possibility of saying, it's just, this has run its course for me, I'm going to go play baseball? And he still talks about how he'd like to play baseball. He'd love to play both. But when you have a season like this one, when you have an injury that apparently affected him for weeks beyond the moment it happened, and when you have a nationally televised 23.1 million people watching moment like that, where you look like a combination of Carson Wentz and Matthew Stafford at his worst, and it's a big, ugly mess, how do you not at least at some point, just run the scenario? What would my life be like if I played baseball instead of football? I'm not saying he will, but he is the one in a million, literally, who could grab a bat and go play baseball and play center field for the A's at a high level, and he's still young enough to do it. I just can't help but wonder whether or not he's at least, how can he not at least think about it? The question is, would he ever do it?
I guess I'd think 3 things. Number one, this sticks in my head when Kyler Murray basically picked football. He talked about his love of football. He talked about playing high school football in Texas and playing before huge crowds, and then in college playing before huge crowds, and then in the NFL. Look, if you go to Major League Baseball and you go and play Major League Baseball, which, Mike, it's no lock that Kyler Murray, he's certainly not going to walk into baseball and play in the big leagues. what at this point he'd have to play minor league baseball for whatever 2 or 3 years, I would think, at least 2, to get ready to play. And then you go and your professional life, and look, I don't know, I guess the Oakland A's might move somewhere, I don't know. But at this point right now, if Kyler Murray played center field for the Oakland A's, he'd be playing with 9,000 people in the stands on a May evening in Oakland, with lousy TV ratings. And even if you get all the way to the World Series, you're playing in front of a good packed house, but your TV ratings are probably 40%, even at their peak of what they'd be in the NFL. So the fact is, people just don't care about baseball like they care about football. Whether that's a part of what he would think about or his love of the respective games, I don't know. But I just don't think he'd be anywhere near that point right now.
Well, it's a lot easier to love something when you're good at it. And even though he's still one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, we saw the decline this year. And it at least should prompt a little soul-searching as to, one way or the other, fork in the road. Am I all in with football, or is there another way? And one of the factors may be, are the Cardinals all in with giving me the contract that I believe I've deserved, even though I've had some bad moments in my 3 years, because the window is open on that as well.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.